and I'd like to appreciate the platform that I've been invited to speak on today. Now, starting out at Speaker's Corner, I saw the effects of mass immigration. The lack of social cohesion in Speaker's Corner due to a certain radical religion I want to speak about today, who, of course, in its radical form, intrinsically teaches the essay of young women, young British women. That's why a quarter of foreign nationals commit the sexual assault crime and the great rape of Britain today. Now, unfortunately, to the Labour government, which isn't left-wing, it's just flim-flam. It doesn't know when to U-turn or when to stick on a policy. It just turns whenever they think it's popular. So the closeted, secretly reformed ideologues at Labour, they push out of the 52 constituencies in the 650 United Kingdom, the most vulnerable constituencies, full of old people, full of veterans, and they slam illegal migrant hotels, which they're now suggesting, by the way, instead of the hotels which we peacefully demonstrate at, they're now suggesting to insulate and pay for homes whilst there's a housing crisis. So make that make sense, ladies and gentlemen. For whatever reason we're living in a housing crisis, and now the Labour government are suggesting that instead of deporting them, which would be the sensible policy, that's supposedly the mandate of the Labour Party, which only got 30% of the vote, by the way. What happened to proportional representation in the first past the post system? So a 30% mandate from the people, and now suggesting was the majority of the United Kingdom want mass immigration, no, mass deportation, apologies. They're now suggesting that we should all sling them in the houses, that British people would buy to buy. It is the hypocrisy of the Labour Party. Now, as they remove 4 of their whips, because there are some reasonable people in the Labour Party who don't want to see children starving, who don't want poor people and old people to starve and die in their cold homes. To distract that, they want to win the next general election by decreasing the voter age to 16 to 17-year-olds. Now, I'll warn you this, there's 2 benefits to this. Firstly, the left side of the young generation have become more radically far left due to indoctrination of the Labour Party. And I'll tell you this now, most young people don't support the Labour Party, so we won't see them for very long coming this next general election, which is the good thing. The bad thing, however, we'll just get the Corbynites in, which is great to see, right? Or Diane Abbott, who says that white people can't receive racism, say that that was a draft that she didn't intentionally mean to say, then affirm 2 days ago that she said it, then got surprised that the Labour Party suspended her. So the anti-Semites and the racists at the Labour Party, they're going to have great. Because they'll just all move towards Corbyn, the Labour Party will get abandoned, and their distraction in trying to minimise the voting age to 16 to 17-year-olds will just all go towards reform. Because there are a high retention in Christian conservatism for young people. I've seen that anecdotally in colleges and at Speaker's Corner, and God bless all of the young people at Speaker's Corner and in demonstrations like this, young people who come up to me and always ask for opinions and listen. People may hate you, just love it. It's hilarious. The fact that they have the audacity to call you a Nazi just means you have something worth saying. Like, famously, I heard them once say to me that like Adolf Hitler, I should
it's
shoot
brilliant,
myself.
man. Yeah, it's all on YouTube, isn't he? I watch him on Speaker's Corner. Young Bob. Yeah, Young Bob. I think his name's Bob.
Even though the Western democracy that we promote kind of developed by open discourse. It was never developed by censorship and cancel culture.
I only live close and don't travel out of town, so
we don't utilise it to deport the sexual degenerates who go against young women, but instead will cancel the people who have an opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been kicked out of my college when I was beat up by a Muslim for promoting Christianity in Speaker's Corner for a month. Now, in response to that, ladies and gentlemen, because they're so smart in college these days, they didn't deduct my attendance when they unwantedly kicked me out for a month, so now they're refusing my second year in college. Well, to be honest, I'd prefer to do this full time if anyone could support me. Ladies and gentlemen. mass immigration, it would be great to see more young activists like this. Really, ladies and gentlemen. It would be great to see the new generation of young people who now have the ability to vote, to go back to the gentleman conservatism that we all saw back in the day when you were old fogies were quite young. I'm sorry about that, I just kind of had to put that out here. But wouldn't it be great? And that's my kind of prescription to you lot, ladies and gentlemen. For the young people that you may be parenting, and God bless you all if you're parents here, promote them conservative values. Because it takes a community to raise a child, ladies and gentlemen, and right now the community that the Labour Party are kind of fostering aren't doing a great job. I mean, the women of the younger generation unfortunately are being persecuted by the illegal migrants, the economic migrants that we're kind of bringing in here in Dover Beach, even though we couldn't get the trucks to France unfortunately, because of the great Conservative government who couldn't get us a deal on Brexit properly. Thank you, by the way. The same government, David Cameron, who promoted sensible 1,000 net immigration, are now bringing hundreds of thousands of undocumented people. Now you've got to ask yourself this question. If these people are genuinely refugees, firstly, what's wrong with France, Albania? Secondly, you can get a Wizz Airline flight for, I don't know, under £50 sometimes to the United Kingdom. And yes, that might require documentation, but to have citizenry in the British United Kingdom, for whatever reason you need a passport just to check that you're not a radical jihadist. I don't know about that. Seems like the police here would like to police the people at Dover Beach for having a civil dialogue on mass immigration, but couldn't police the oceans, which are unfortunately bringing in thousands of people. What am I seeing as a result of mass immigration? I want to kind of point your attention to a certain religious figure that's kind of been able to thrive due to mass immigration, and that is one Mohammed Hijab. Now the people who aren't so, I don't know if you've heard of this gentleman, but yes, he is. He had a secret second wife, ladies and gentlemen, and latest news on that case, this secret second wife called Aisha, unfortunately, God bless her soul for coming out, she was abused. They lied about him being the wife of Mohammed Hijab, and in response to that, the speakers at Speaker's Corner tried to play a case that she was mentally ill, she was doubting Islam and suicidal, for saying that a Dahi of Islam was was the second wife of a big speaker. So my issue with Islam is in its radical form, and it teaches the rape within marriage, because you don't need consent for a wife within a marriage within Islam to have sex. It's the obligation of a wife within Islam to have sex regardless of the consent being given. Yes, of course. And of course in its radical form it pushes for child marriage, which of course we all like to see when we saw an epic. Yes, of course, it is a pedophilia, but that would be a hate crime. For example, I have a hate crime investigated against me. Now, you might want to know what I said for that hate crime. In response to receiving a death threat at Speaker's Corner, I had suggested to the man who was attempting to assault me that he may have had a boyfriend trying to tug him away from the situation. Now, in response to that, ladies and gentlemen, the police got my details for supposedly inciting racial hatred, for a homophobic slur. I don't see how those categories kind of relate to one another. How does saying that someone has a boyfriend, which isn't offensive by the way, only the Muslims find that one offensive, how is that relating to racial hatred? Anyways, the man who sent me a death threat, nothing happened to him, but I'm being investigated for a hate crime. So right now, and I'll just finish off on this, a 17-year-old who does political and religious activism could potentially not have a second year in college, is potentially could be arrested for suggesting someone has a boyfriend, even though we've just gone through Pride Month, to which that was celebrated apparently, and right now is doing a speech at Dover Beach. So God bless you all. So we're going to mix it up a little bit now, because here we have Mrs. Kent.